Here's the problem. People go into sports betting thinking it's an escape route. One lucky win, and they'll be financially free. But that's far from reality. In reality, sports betting requires discipline, it requires patience, systems, and it requires commitment. I've done this for a few years now, and I've actually figured out a blueprint to make your first $1,000. You can get it through the description link below or this QR code right here. But in the meantime, I'm warning you. This first step might sting a little, but it's going to set the tone for the rest of your sports betting career. See, most bettors think winning is about picking the right team. And when I say the right team, I mean the one you've been rooting for since forever, or the one your friends brag about. Basically, the one you just feel is going to bring it home. Well, hate to break it to you, but that's not going to give you an edge. Because your edge isn't about who gets the loudest cheer or who gets everyone's vote of confidence. Yeah, I said it. Doesn't matter which team you're rooting for. It's not going to give you an advantage here, buddy. You know what will? It's in knowing where to find those mispriced lines. The problem is, most people fire off bets without even thinking about the price. They see a number, they scan the team, they click. Done. Just like that. But the pros? They look at the numbers behind the numbers. And here's how that works. Say you see a line at plus 150. That means the market thinks this outcome has a 40% chance of hitting. But you crunch the data. And by data, I mean you look at the stats, the matchups, the injuries, the trends, and you realize that the true probability is actually about 45%. Yeah, so that 5% gap, that's positive EV. That's where your edge is. So now that we know where the money is, why are we still picking teams instead of prices? Well, I've got an answer for that. The issue here isn't so much about which team or which price you bet on. It's more about what drives you to make those decisions. And yes, I'm talking about emotion. Because here's what happens. You find a decent number. You think there might be value. And then your brain starts telling stories. You're bound to win at some point. I've got to go with the flow. Because what if everyone's right? Oh really? Did the sportsbook forget how to play the game? Did their entire analytics department just miss an angle? No, I don't think so. Stories cost money. And emotion doesn't pay. So the more a bet makes emotional sense to you, the less likely it is to be financially beneficial. Okay, let me spell that out for you. When the public piles onto a team, especially a favorite in prime time, the line inflates. Why? Because the sportsbooks know recreational bettors love favorites. They love the hype. So if 75% of the tickets are on one side, the book can shade that line up. Now all of a sudden, that minus 150 odds you saw at the opening turned into a minus 170, meaning you're paying more to win the same amount of expected profit, which usually goes sideways. Because while everyone's hoarding to one side, the value has quietly shifted. To the underdog, nobody wants to touch. So that's the trap, because when something feels obvious, it's usually already priced in. And that's an important lesson you need to learn as early as possible. Because how can you find the mispriced line if your emotion keeps steering you one way? The wrong way? Yeah, sure, you might win 1 or 2 times, but more often than not, you're going to lose by following that method. So here's what I want you to do. Squash your emotions, listen to logic instead. Do the math and let the numbers work for you. But once you see the profit rolling in, don't be cocky. You're not out of the woods yet, my friend. In fact, you're probably into the thick of it. And this next step is crucial. So walk with me here. Yes, after step 2, you're feeling sharp, invincible even. And since you're earning a bit of money, you're thinking $25 per bet is not enough. You can go higher to earn bigger bucks. So what do? You bump it to $100. Then $250 because your edge was strong there. Feeling an ego boost, you decide to do a max unit banger. But you lost that bet. And just like that, you've erased all the other good decisions you've made so far. Now, I don't want you to get to that point and hit rock bottom. So I'm giving you this pro tip. If you've got a $1,000 starting bankroll, don't bet random numbers here and there. Instead, stick to 1 to 2% units every time. So for every bet you make, the max amount you can put down is only $20. That's it. I don't care if it looks small. It's what's going to keep you in the game long enough for your profit to snowball. Because let's say you have an edge, and you win 55% of your bets at a standard minus 110 odds. After 100 bets at 2% stakes, you'll probably get about $100 net profit. And over time, those edges compound and your bankroll will grow. Soon you won't be starting with only $1,000, but $5,000, maybe even $10,000. And even then, you have to stick to the same rates, 1 to 2% every single time. I know that some of you watching right now think that there's got to be a shortcut to winning, that you don't need to go through all this trouble just to earn some extra cash. But I'm telling you right now, you need to stop treating sports betting like a lottery. Instead, you need to stop building your very own system. Kind of like investing. You can't just buy one stock and expect it to change your life tomorrow. Instead, you build a portfolio. You look for small edges, you allocate your capital properly, and you let the compounding do the heavy lifting. So let's say you find 5 to 10 small positive EV bets per week. Over a month, you're looking at 20 to 40 bets. Then over a season, you've reached over 100 bets. Seems like overkill, but trust me, it's not. Because what if each one has a 2 to 5% edge? If you stack them together, you'd be surprised at how much you've earned. Don't believe me? Well, let's look at the math behind it, shall we? Going back to a starting bankroll of $1,000, let's assume you bet 2% per play. So you're staking $20 for every bet. And since you're not psychic, you can't really find jackpot lines, but hey, at least you're consistently finding bets with about a 3% edge. That means on average, every $20 bet is worth about 60 cents in long-term expected profit. Now let's multiply that by 10 bets a week. That gives you $6 in profit. Then, over a month with 40 bets, that's $24 in your pockets. But let's say you play consistently throughout the entire year. That's about 400 bets, give or take. And if my math is correct, your profit comes down to $240 on just a $1,000. In investment terms, that's a 24% annual return, which is huge because the historical average return of the stock market hovers around 8 to 10%. So really you have the potential of winning big in sports betting, but that's only if you're doing it right. And I know keeping track of all your actions can be overwhelming. That's why I decided to build a private community. You're totally invited to join. So if you want, just click the link in the description or scan the QR code right here. After all, winning requires feedback, right? Even if you're following every step so far, you're still not done because the market moves, sportsbooks adjust, edges disappear. And if you don't adapt, you're basically already 10 steps behind. So if you're serious about sports betting, you've got to track your every move, including your ROI, win rate, closing line value, performance by sport, performance by bet type, and line movement patterns. Now, sure, you can do that all manually, but I mean, who's got time for that? That's why I invested in a tool like OddsJam, and let me tell you, it's a lifesaver. It's got a built-in tracker that automatically logs everything for you. Plus, it shows you your daily profits, weekly profits, and long-term performance, all in one place. Just take a look at my dashboard. As you can see, I've made $1,076 in profit, but to get there, it was quite a roller coaster ride. It wasn't all uphill, but it's a good thing that OddsJam has an actual profit versus expected profit feature. Because with it, I can actually see how much I can potentially earn per bet. And guess what? I milked that feature, which put me a little ahead of my expected value here, from $893 to $1,233. And really, that's just the beginning, because OddsJam has a ton of features that I've learned to incorporate into my system. So, if you're curious to see how that works, just click this video.